We're often told that gender inequality and class inequality are two totally separate fights. But what if they aren't? What if they're actually two sides of the very same coin? In this explainer, we're going to dig into how these two massive issues are deeply, deeply connected and why seeing that connection changes everything.
All right, so to really get this, we have to start by looking at a crisis that's unfolding for the most part just out of sight. It's this quiet epidemic of despair that's really hitting some communities hard.
And this whole crisis is really summed up by a pretty new but incredibly powerful term. Maybe you've heard it before. What exactly are deaths of despair? So this term, it comes from two scholars, Case and Angus Deaton. And it's not just about a few individual tragedies. It describes a huge, troubling pattern. We're talking about a story of lost jobs, of fractured families, and of communities just kind of breaking down. A social collapse that's leaving a trail of real devastation. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Because while this is a crisis that's born from class issues, it is hitting one gender way, way harder. In fact, men are nearly 3 times more likely than women to die from these deaths of despair. Right there, that tells you this isn't just about class. It's absolutely a gender issue too. Okay, now let's follow the money. Because when you look at the economic numbers, you see two completely different stories playing out at the exact same time. We have two pay gaps, and they're moving in totally opposite directions. First, the good news story, the one most of us have heard about. The gap between what a typical man earns and what a typical woman earns. It's closed a lot over the last 40 years. We went from women earning just 63 cents for every dollar a man made, all the way up to 82 cents. That's fantastic. It's real, tangible progress. But look at this. During that same exact time frame, the class pay gap got so much worse. If you compare a typical worker's wages to a high earner, someone in the 90th percentile, that typical worker's wage actually dropped from 54% of that high earner's pay down to just 42%. So think about that. As the gap between genders was narrowing, the economic gap between the rich and everybody else was widening. So, what are we supposed to make of all this? Well, the core argument here is that we just can't keep treating these as competing problems. We have to stop thinking in terms of either or and start looking at the whole, complete picture. You see, traditionally, people have been stuck in their own corners on this. On one side, you've got the class warriors, and for them, it's all about the economic elite, the oligarchy. Then, on the other side, you have gender warriors, and they're focused on the patriarchy. But if you only look at the world through one of those lenses, you totally miss how they connect and overlapped. And this quote from the source material just nails it. It's from researchers Nick Hillman and Nicholas Robinson, and they say, policymaking is not a zero-sum game. We have to care about female disadvantage and the socioeconomic gap and male underachievement all at the same time. All three matter. They're all connected. So, what happens when a huge group, like working class men, starts to struggle? Well, it's not just their problem. The consequences, they ripple out, and they end up touching pretty much every part of society. So what does that ripple effect actually look like? Well, when working class men struggle to find good work, their families have less money, obviously. That in turn puts a lot more financial pressure on their female partners. Things we rely on, social institutions like marriage, they can start to get strained and become less stable. And maybe the most important piece of all, that disadvantage, it doesn't just go away. It gets passed down to the kids. And that is exactly how this becomes an inherited problem. It creates this really corrosive cycle that can lock families into disadvantage for generations. Let's break down exactly how that works. Okay, so here's the cycle. It all starts with men struggling in the job market. Step 2, that leads directly to poorer families. Then, and this is really interesting, research shows that boys, specifically, are often hit harder by growing up in a disadvantaged home. And that, step 4, damages their own future prospects when they become adults, which starts the whole cycle all over again for the next generation. It's how the economic struggles of fathers become an inherited burden for their sons. So here's the bottom line, the most crucial point. The problems of class inequality and the struggles of working class men, they are not separate issues. They are fundamentally inseparable. You simply cannot fix broad economic inequality without also addressing the fortunes of less advantaged boys and men. It's not a side issue. It's absolutely essential to building a more equal society for everyone. Which really leaves us with a final provocative thought. The popular phrase lean in has done a lot to focus our attention on women's advancement, which is great, but it's mostly focused at the top. So the question is, as we continue to lean in, are we accidentally forgetting to look down, to look at the deep class divides and the very real struggles of all the people, men and women, who are being left behind? Definitely something to think about.